The Victorian Arena dome floated like a soap bubble over the shattered asteroid, its shimmering force field containing an ecosystem designed by sadists with a fondness for teeth and venom. Inside, a forest sweltered under twin suns, heavy with the scent of damp bark, fermenting moss, and something faintly metallic, blood, or at least the simulation's best approximation. Above the dome, 300,000 spectators crowded into anti-grav platforms, watching the live feeds on holoscreens the size of small moons. Vendors flitted between them, hawking delicacies like charred Gyrthax larvae on skewers and glowworm liqueur that, if consumed too quickly, caused mild hallucinations and severe gastrointestinal regret. A three-headed announcer droned in overlapping tones, its central mouth occasionally pausing to sip from a chalice that seemed to emit smoke in 7 colors. Welcome, noble species and assorted vermin, to the 67th Annual Galactic Survival Games, it intoned, where the brave prove their worth and the foolish demonstrate the galaxy's need for better life insurance. On screen, transport pods were aligning over the dome like bullets in the chamber of a very large gun. Inside one of those pods sat Ellie Vance, her boots braced against the floor as artificial gravity threatened to cut out. She checked her rifle, not for use in combat today, but because her hands always found the rifle in moments like this. The scent of gun oil calmed her, even as her stomach turned from the pod's gentle sway. 5 hours, she said, glancing at her squad. That's how long we got to outbuild, outwheat, and outlast. Questions? Ma'am, said Carter, a wiry woman with a scar shaped like a comma above her left eyebrow. If we fail, do we die fast or slow? Ellie considered. Fast if you're lucky. Slow if you're like me. The squad chuckled, not because it was funny, but because laughter took up less energy than screaming. On the holoscreen, the announcer continued. Let's review the contenders. The Draftery Shock Troopers, apex predators of the reptilian worlds. They've been known to construct fortified citadels from bone and bark in under 3 hours. The Thinxian Silk Weavers, masters of aerial architecture. They once suspended an entire city in a web over a lava flow. And the Softskins. A pause. Not a respectful pause. More the kind of pause you get when trying to remember if the thing you stepped in is mud or something more offensive. The camera swung to Ellie's pod. The view zoomed in on her tired eyes, her crew's compact gear kits, their lack of ceremonial armor or massive teeth. Humans, the announcer said with audible disdain. Newcomers to the games. Last cycle, one fell from a tree and punctured both lungs. The other mistook a symbiotic vine for a hammock. The betting markets currently have them at 700 to 1. That's generous. Ellie ignored the commentary. She'd been underestimated before by alien warlords, by Galactic High Command, by half her exes. It never got old. 30 seconds to drop came the automated voice in her earpiece. Checklists, Ellie barked. The squad sprang into motion. Serrano checked a coil of climbing rope. Zhao slapped a Magpulse device against her pack. Gwyn toggled through drone feeds on a palm-sized hollow. Ladies, Ellie said, remember, this isn't a war zone. No weapons discharged unless absolutely necessary. And no heroics. This is about shelter, efficiency, survival. Yes, ma'am. Outside, a ripple passed through the arena as the force field shimmered. Predators stirred below. Creatures the size of hover trucks, their bioluminescent eyes blinking in anticipation. The scent of ozone thickened in the air. Pods 1 through 10, prepare for atmospheric breach. The automated voice warned. Breathe deep, Ellie murmured. The pod thrummed as the clamps released. And then they were falling. The descent was steep but controlled, a plume of superheated air streaking past the reinforced windows. Ellie's stomach flipped as simulated gravity buckled, then stabilized. Through the glass, the forest expanded like an emerald ocean. Eyes up, Ellie said. Remember the plan. Climb fast, build faster, Carter replied. The pod slammed into the earth with a pneumatic hiss. Doors irised open, disgorging 5 women into the thick, wet heat of the biome. The air smelled of rotting flowers and electric storms. Alien insects buzzed in low, hypnotic patterns. Ellie crouched, scanning the tree-line. Perimeter now. Zhao, drones in the canopy. Serrano and Gwyn, find me a tree worth marrying. Within 30 seconds, her squad was moving like clockwork. Up above, the announcer cackled. The Softskins are climbing trees? Fascinating. Perhaps this is an evolutionary reflex, like lemurs. Or cockroaches. Ellie's squad ignored the laughter as they assessed the nearest massive hardwood, a towering thing with spiraling branches and bark that shimmered like metal. Looks good, Gwen called. Dense canopy. Minimal predators in the upper levels. Then that's our new home, Ellie said. Behind them, something moved in the undergrowth, low and sinuous, with a sound like wet leather sliding over stone. Carter's rifle tracked the movement. Finger off the trigger, butt ready. Ma'am, Carter said softly. I see it. Ellie kept her voice level. Let it sniff. No sudden movements. The creature emerged, a six-legged predator with translucent skin and too many eyes. It sniffed the air, then hissed. Ellie met its gaze. We're not your food today. As if understanding, the creature slunk back into the shadows. Above, alien audiences groaned in disappointment. Ellie's earpiece crackled. Pod 27 eliminated, said a bored-sounding referee. Somewhere, someone else's survival test had ended in screaming and crunching bone. Clock's ticking, Ellie said. Let's build. Her squad swarmed the tree, tools and rope in hand. Branches creaked as they began lashing together support beams and decking. Within minutes, a platform emerged among the leaves. 5 hours, Ellie murmured to herself again. 5 hours to show them what Softskins can do. Up in the stands, the Thorgax warlord laughed so hard he choked on a roasted insect leg. 5 hours? They'll be mulch in one. Ellie didn't hear him. She was already scanning the horizon, watching for Drathri shock troopers. Somewhere out there, the galaxy's apex predators were building their fortress. And when they came for her treehouse, she planned to be ready. The forest shivered as a distant roar rolled through the canopy. Ellie smiled faintly. Let's see if they can climb. Ellie crouched on the swaying platform, a coil of braided vine in her hands, listening to the forest breathe. The canopy above whispered in alien tongues, leaves that clattered like bone dice, insects droning in strange polyrhythms, and something in the distance giving a guttural bellow that seemed to vibrate her molars. She tightened the knot and gave it a tug. Secure. Good. Gwen, she said without looking up, tell me you got the drones up. 2 running perimeter sweeps. Third's jammed to stabilize a rotor, but it's compensating. Gwen replied, her fingers dancing over the wrist-mounted console. A faint blue glow flickered over her face, highlighting the faintest smile. No large predators within 50 meters. For now. For now, Ellie echoed, scanning the tree lean. She caught sight of Carter halfway up the trunk, a knife between her teeth as she lashed another support beam into place. Serrano and Zhao were working the pulley system, hoisting planks of composite with salvage from their pod. Together. They moved like a unit that had done this before, not the building part, perhaps, but the work of making something functional under pressure, with eyes in every direction. Above them, the arena's commentary droned on. The Softskins are, building a treehouse? How quaint. Perhaps they'll sing campfire songs next. A ripple of laughter spread through the stands. Wagers scrolled across the holoscreens in bright red glyphs. Current odds. Drathri shock troopers, 1:2. Thinxian silk weavers, 3:1. Humans, 1100:1. Ellie smirked faintly, the kind of expression that came and went like a thought she'd almost decided against. Better odds than last time, she murmured. Ma'am, Zhao called down. Nothing. Keep working. Across the forest, a thunderous cracking sound split the air. The canopy trembled as an immense tree toppled, felled by something with more muscle than patience. Sounds like our reptilian friends are at it, Carter said grimly, spitting the knife into her hand. Drathri? Gwen asked. Who else flattens an entire section of forest to build a hut? Serrano muttered. Ellie pressed a finger to her earpiece. A soft click opened a secure channel. Vance a command. Status check. Do we have visual on Drathri activity? The response came after a crackle of static. Vance, this is Control. Drathri team has cleared a 2-kilometer radius. constructing fortifications at Sector Delta 4. Intel suggests they're weaponizing the local fauna as perimeter guards. Ellie swore under her breath. Of course they are. On the arena feeds, the Drathri were an intimidating sight. 7 towering figures moved in near-perfect formation, their armored hides glinting like molten bronze. At their center strode Commander Vercal, his massive claws flexing as he barked orders that echoed like cannon fire. Observe the Drathri shock troopers, apex predators of the Saurian belt. The announcer crooned. 15 prior wins in the Galactic survival games. Once they constructed a defensive wall, using only their tails and the corpses of local wildlife. Vercal raised his arms to the sky, roaring. The audience responded with a deafening cheer. Betting odds ticked higher in real time. Back in the human camp, Ellie's team worked in silence broken only by the creak of rope and the rhythmic clack of tools. She took a moment to study her squad. Carter's wiry strength, Serrano's calculating focus, Nguyen's quiet precision, Zhao's tireless adaptability. None of them looked like warriors in the traditional sense. No glowing eyes, no chinless armor or claws, just scars and calluses and a calmness that had taken years to earn. Ellie. Nguyen's voice was soft, barely above the rustle of leaves. Why do they hate us so much? Ellie didn't answer right away. Instead, she tied off the last support beam and leaned back, letting her legs dangle into empty space. Far below, the forest floor rippled with movement. Something sleek and sinuous gliding through the undergrowth. They don't hate us, Ellie said finally. They just think we're funny. Soft skins. Meat bags. The galaxy's charity case. Feels like hate, Nguyen muttered. Ellie gave a humorless laugh. Feels worse when they stop laughing. That's when you know you're a threat. Like now, Carter asked, wiping sweat from her brow. Ellie tilted her head, listening. Like now. In the distance, the forest went unnaturally still. Birds, or at least creatures shaped like birds, exploded from the canopy in shrieking flocks. Even the insects seemed to hold their breath. They're coming, Ellie said softly. Already? Serrano hissed. No, not yet, but they will. The Drathri don't let rival teams live long enough to finish their work. It's a dominance display. A message. And what's our message? Zhao asked. Ellie's eyes hardened. We climb higher. The squad fell back into motion. Faster now. Rope tightened. Planks locked into place. Gear lashed beams in efficient bundles. In the stands, a chorus of voices debated loudly. Humans are wasting their time. They'll never survive the night. Actually, murmured a lone voice, thin, reedy, but uncomfortably confident. Perhaps you're underestimating them. The others laughed it off. But far below, hidden in the treetops, Ellie smiled faintly. Let them come, she murmured. As if on cue, a deep, guttural roar rolled across the forest, shaking the canopy. Every predator within earshot went silent. Vercal, Carter said, her voice low. Ellie didn't flinch. Good. That means he's close enough to hear us when we win. The wind shifted, carrying the faint metallic scent of Drathri bloodlust. Ellie glanced at her rifle, not to fire it. Not yet. Just a habit, like a pianist's fingers hovering above the keys. She exhaled slowly, the corners of her mouth curling ever so slightly. 5 hours, she said. That's all we need. And somewhere in the forest, the apex predators began their march. Night in the dome fell like a hammer blow, sudden and absolute. Twin suns blinked out in perfect synchrony, replaced by an artificial moon that bathed the forest in silver light. The temperature plummeted as if the biome itself had inhaled and forgotten to exhale. In the treetops, Ellie crouched on the nearly completed platform, staring out over the dark sea of foliage. Beneath her, the alien forest seemed to vibrate with restrained violence. Perimeter traps are live, Carter reported in a whisper, wiping sap from her hands. Tripwires set on all likely approach vectors. EMP charges buried under the vines, calibrated for short-range bursts. Good, Ellie murmured, her eyes scanning the distance. The canopy rustled in unnatural waves. the sort of movement that meant something large was forcing its way through, not carry what it crushed underfoot. Zhao emerged from below, silent as a shadow, carrying a coil of synthetic cable and a small satchel. "Snares prepped," she said. "They'll hold anything under a metric ton for at least 30 seconds. After that, 30 seconds is a lifetime if you use it well," Ellie said. From above, Nguyen's drone buzzed quietly, its small sensor array throwing ghostly holographic patterns onto her wrist console. She frowned, fingers flickering over the display. "Ma'am, I'm detecting energy spikes. Multiple heat signatures, moving in formation. 2 kilometers and closing." Ellie's jaw tightened. "Drathery? Who else?" Nguyen muttered. The announcers' voices drifted faintly from somewhere high above, carried on the wind like an irritating him. "Behold, the Drathery shock troopers," one crooned. "Already, they've raised a spiked barricade and fashioned rudimentary weapons from local fauna. An elegant display of raw force and ingenuity." "And the humans?" another voice asked, dripping sarcasm. "They appear to be braiding vines?" Laughter erupted from the crowd, rolling over the dome like distant thunder. Ellie smirked but didn't rise to the bait. "Let them laugh," she murmured. "They're not the ones down here." Her squad worked in unison, every movement practiced, deliberate. Serrano hammered in the final support struts of the treehouse, her muscles taut under the dim light. The platform creaked, but it held firm. A spiral staircase of vines and repurposed pod plating wrapped around the trunk, leading up like a coil of metal and jungle. "Not bad for 5 hours," Serrano said, wiping her brow. "Not bad yet," Ellie corrected. "We'll see how it holds under pressure." A low vibration trembled through the wood. Somewhere far below, branches cracked like gunfire. The sound carried upward, closer now. "They're moving fast," Carter said, adjusting her rifle sights. 15 minutes, maybe less. Ellie tapped her earpiece. "Command, status update on other teams?" Static. Then a curt voice. "Vance, this is Control. Finksy and Silkweavers eliminated. Incinerated their own web while fighting off predators. Chlorash bloodworms consumed by local apex lifeform. Drathery advancing. You're the only remaining opposition." Ellie exhaled through her nose. "Copy." She turned to her squad. "It's official. We're the last soft skin standing. That makes us a target." "Wasn't already?" Carter muttered. "This isn't about survival anymore," Ellie said. "This is about making a point. If they breach the perimeter, you hold fire until my mark. Every shot counts. Remember, no heroics." "Yes, ma'am." "Zhao, you're on the net. Serrano, hold overwatch with Carter. Nguyen, keep eyes on the drones. I want warning before they're under us." The squad shifted into position without hesitation. Each woman checked her gear with the quiet focus of veterans who understood what it meant to wait for violence. Ellie glanced upward. The artificial moonlight glittered on the force field above, and for a moment she imagined the audience leaning forward in their seats, eyes fixed on the feeds. They weren't here to see survival. They were here to see failure. "They think we're prey," she said softly. "Let's remind them why humans climb trees in the first place." The forest seemed to answer her challenge. A roar shattered the stillness, deep and resonant enough to make leaves quake. It was close, too close. Visual contact. Gwen hissed. Her drone projected a flickering image onto the treehouse floor. 7 massive heat signatures, their outlines bristling with weapons and claws. The Drathery shock troopers emerged from the undergrowth like a nightmare given form. Bronze-scaled giants, their eyes glowing in the dark, each carrying weapons torn from the environment, clubs of petrified wood, shields made from the shells of slain predators. At their head, Commander Vercal towered above his warriors, his spiked tail dragging furrows in the dirt. Soft skins. Vercal's voice boomed like thunder. "We have come to end your pathetic climb. Face us, or we'll burn your treetop nest to ash." Ellie leaned casually on her rifle, peering down at the commander. "That's adorable," she called. "You're angry because we climbed higher than you could reach, aren't you?" The Drathery snarled, their claws flexing. Vercal's tail lashed violently. "Burn it," he growled. Two of his warriors raised crude torches, flames hissing and spitting as they advanced toward the base of the tree. Ellie's eyes sharpened. Zhao! Yes, ma'am. Now! A soft click, and the EMP charges buried in the vines activated. A crackling blue shockwave erupted from the base of the tree, engulfing the advancing Drathri. Sparks cascaded from their weapons. The torches guttered and died. The warriors roared in fury, staggering as neural implants flickered under the pulse. One fell to its knees, clutching its skull. Perimeter breached, Nguyen said tightly. On my mark, Ellie whispered. The treehouse shuddered as one Drathri attempted to climb, its massive claws digging into the trunk. Carter's rifle tracked the movement, finger poised. Mark. A single silenced shot cracked through the night. The Drathri climber howled and fell, landing in a heap as the snipers picked off the next wave. The forest erupted into chaos. Drathri roaring, human rifles firing in precision bursts, predators shrieking as they fled the crossfire. Ellie remained still, her rifle resting on her knee. She watched as the shock troopers faltered, regrouped, and hesitated at the edge of the clearing. They didn't expect resistance, Serrano muttered. No, Ellie said. They expected prey. Verkal's glowing eyes locked on hers, a low growl rattling his chest. You will regret this, he snarled. Ellie's faint smile didn't waver. You first. The commander roared, raising his weapon, and the treehouse seemed to tremble in anticipation of the coming storm. Verkal's roar rattled the canopy, sending a flock of phosphorescent avians screaming into the night. His massive frame gleamed under the artificial moonlight, claws twitching with anticipation. The Drathri commander raised a spike club and pointed it skyward, a challenge to both his warriors and the soft-skins perched above. Burn them out, he bellowed. No mercy. Below, his soldiers surged forward in unison, bronze scales flashing as they hurled themselves at the base of the tree. The ground trembled with their advance, each footfall accompanied by the metallic rasp of armor scraping bark. One reached the trunk and began to climb, muscles bulging as claws gouged deep furrows into the wood. Ellie knelt on the edge of the treehouse platform, her expression unreadable. The rifle in her hands rested with casual precision, barrel angled downward. Carter, she murmured. Already lined up, came the reply, voice steady. Take the shot. A muted crack split the air. The climbing Drathri jerked, a perfect hole punched cleanly through the neural implant embedded at the base of its skull. It fell with a bone-shaking thud, flattening a shrub in an explosion of leaves and dirt. For a heartbeat, the clearing went still. Then the Drathri roared as one, anger spiking into a frenzy. Cover fire, Ellie said softly. Serrano and Zhao fired in staggered bursts, each shot finding gaps in Drathri armor. A second soldier staggered back, claws flailing as an EMP charge hidden among the vines detonated near its feet, sending arcs of electric blue skittering across its body. They're adapting, Nguyen warned from her drone feed, rerouting neural systems, shielding their weapons from the pulses. Smart bastards. They're apex predators, Ellie replied. That's what makes this fun. A Drathri hurled a crude spear upward. It lodged into the platform just inches from Serrano, vibrating violently. They're testing for weak points, Carter said. Ellie's fingers drummed against the rifle stock. Let them test. Zhao! Trigger the fallback traps. Below, a section of vine snapped taut as a weighted net sprang up from the undergrowth, ensnaring two charging Drathri. They thrashed violently, their rage shaking the entire tree, but the trap held just long enough for Serrano to lob a low-yield shock grenade into the tangle. A flash of blinding white seared the darkness. When the light faded, only one of the two was still moving. Verkal's roar cut through the chaos. Enough! The commander surged forward, claws raking the earth. In a single bound, he gripped the trunk and began to climb, muscles bunching with terrifying force. His eyes blazed gold as he ascended, each movement radiating power. Big one's coming up, Carter said tersely. Ellie rose slowly, her rifle held loosely at her side. Everyone fall back. Cover the flanks. He's mine. Ma'am. That's an order. Reluctantly, The squad repositioned, their rifles tracking the remaining Drathri in the clearing. The night vibrated with tension as Vercal hauled his bulk higher and higher, his scaled hands crushing bark and snapping branches like brittle bone. Ellie stood at the edge of the platform, waiting. When his massive head rose above the floor, she met his glare with unflinching calm. "You are prey," Vercal snarled. "You climb trees like vermin. I will snap this twig you call fortress and scatter your bones." Ellie tilted her head. "You're very loud for someone clinging to a tree." Vercal lunged, one clawed hand swiping toward her. Ellie sidestepped smoothly, boots barely whispering against the wooden planks. The claw embedded into the platform, splintering it with a sharp crack. "Cute trick," Ellie murmured. Her hand flicked a switch on her belt. There was a subtle hum. Vercal hesitated. Then his neural implant sparked violently. His roar twisted into a guttural choke as his limbs spasmed, claws scrabbling for purchase. "You thought this was about strength," Ellie said evenly. "It's about leverage." With a final jolt from her EMP belt, Vercal's bulk wrenched backward. He toppled from the platform, claws raking uselessly at the air as he plummeted to the earth below. The impact shook the treehouse and silenced the clearing. For one long moment, even the insects seemed to hold their breath. Then, from the stands high above, a wave of shock rippled through the alien audience. Gasps, curses, and incredulous murmurs overlapped in 100 languages. "The human has downed the Drathri commander," one announcer shrieked. This is unprecedented." In the clearing, the remaining Drathri faltered. Without their leader's roar to drive them forward, they hesitated. "Withdraw," Ellie called down. Her voice was calm but carried like a gunshot in the still air. "You lost." The Drathri shifted, growled, then slowly retreated into the darkness, dragging their wounded with them. Ellie exhaled. The tension in her body dissolved, but her gaze remained sharp. She slung her rifle over her shoulder and turned to her squad. "Status?" "All green," Serrano replied. "No casualties. No breaches." Ellie nodded. "Good. Pack it up?" "Pack it up?" Carter frowned. "We're not staying?" "No!" Ellie's eyes drifted over the treehouse they had built. Sturdy, efficient, and now silent. "It'll hold without us. We've made our point." Far above, chaos reigned. Betting markets crashed. Bureaucrats screamed into comms, and Galactic High Command frantically recalibrated their spreadsheets. But down in the forest, Ellie simply adjusted her pack and began climbing down, her boots landing lightly in the dirt. The force field shimmered as the automated announcer sputtered in confusion. "Victory awarded to the human team." Ellie didn't even look back. "We built it in 5 hours," she murmured as she walked away. "It'll stand for 50. Her squad followed, silent and steady, as the galaxy above screamed.